because you're very, very important and sweet, I did make lots of notes, which I'll completely go out of my head now that we start talking. I will not be able to tell you a thing that I wrote down. It was in March you were diagnosed. I think it was July 4th then that it went from being in the vulva to the lungs, which is a much bigger event in the 4th of July. You said you came out of the clinic, you were angry. And I don't know whether, given that you just always seem to be a very sunny person, whether it took a while to get that anger out, or whether it's always has to be there to a point, because there is a reason to be angry, I guess.
I think like when I first got diagnosed, like when I very first got diagnosed, I was really like, I was angry then, like, cause I was just like, what, like I was so shocked. Yeah. But when, like, I think I was really scared of dying. Like I was so afraid of dying. Like that was my thing. I was like, I'm gonna die. This is before it had spread. Yeah. So when they had told me that it was terminal and that it had spread, it was like this really weird sense of relief, because like my fear had been lifted almost, cause it was like, oh geez, I don't have to worry about that anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like it's gonna happen now. So it was like, so there was that sense. But I suppose the anger comes from the sense that like, I think like my anger, my battle is that like I've always done my best. Do you know what I mean? In anything I've ever done. I'm an all or nothing kind of person. Yeah. So I suppose my anger is just really like, you know, I don't know whether anybody has any faith or anything. Like I've always tried to have faith. I'm not really good at it, but I've tried. Yeah. And I suppose it's really like, what could I have done so wrong that would have led to this? And not so much for me, but for my family, because they're such good people. Like, and I'm like, I'm not going to know much about it, am I? Like, but they're going to remember it, like, and they're going to know, and they're going to feel that, like, and I suppose that's where my anger is. It's that good people don't get good things, you know what I mean? And that's the harsh reality of it, like.
Well, certainly again and again we see, you know, and you're connected now with the Gavin Glynn Foundation. We'll talk about that with the single, but there are again and again completely innocent good people will be sideswiped by a cruelty, and there's no kind of logic or no justification for it, and it is just the random chance that happens in life that a bus will hit somebody at some point and you don't know. And now, given the McCann family, within 3 weeks of each other, your dad Anthony is diagnosed with prostate cancer. It does seem to me that you all came out fighting, because as I said, I look at images and you're always smiling, and your dad's always smiling, and there's that sense that, you know, your family are the type of family that just aren't going to say, oh no, like let's lie down and just accept all this. There's a real sense of, okay, we're going to fight this and we're going to have fun.
Yeah, well, you have to have fun. Geez, you have to have a laugh. Like, you might as well bury yourself now if you're not going to have a laugh. Like, do you know, like, we the slaggins we have, geez, if anybody heard us, it's awful. Like, but come here, I think the reason that we were so eager to fight is that, like, the government and the health system haven't given us what we needed. Like, you know, like Dad was misdiagnosed. He was told he had a prostate infection a year before he found out it was then stage 4. I was told I had ovarian cysts, and then I was told I had leiomyosarcoma, in which I'd undergone treatment for, and it wasn't even the right cancer. So there's no specialist here in Ireland for sarcoma.
That's incredible.
And it's predominantly a young adult and childhood cancer. So that's where my fucking anger comes from. It's like a 23-year-old or a child should not be collateral damage for a system or a government that doesn't want to fucking pay for a specialist. Right. Do you know what I mean? So I suppose that's why we're so livid and full of fire. It's because we have to be if we want to get what we need. Like, if we hadn't gone to London to get that second opinion, I'd still be getting treated for a cancer that I don't have. Right. So that's scary.
Big time. And do you feel, I don't know if there's any glimmer of hope that people like good old Simon Harris and others are recognising this flaw, or is it still early stages?
Simon rang me, weirdly. And I don't care if he publishes either, like, I'm nothing to lose. Well, Mary sent me a get well soon card as mum, and I was a bit like, because I'd written him letters a few times, because my college wouldn't let me graduate. Even though I'd completed the 4 years, done my dissertation, finished all my work, but because I was too ill, I was actually in hospital at the time to sit my exams, they cancelled my degree. So they still wanted me to pay the $3,000. So Simon, it took us months now to contact him, but considering he lives around the corner from me, we did get in contact with him, and he did get my fees waived, and he helped that way. When I went, it seems to be when I go public, he appears. So I put up a public post about how I was having issues with the social welfare, and he came in out of nowhere. Do you know what I mean? But you know, apart from the fact that I've made racket, no. It's only when I make noise, like, it's only when I make a lot of noise that I get what I want. And I'm willing to do that. Like,
that's always been the way though, right?
That's never been any different.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I spoke to you a few years ago, and you know, your beauty blog, you had a lot of people following you. So you were already familiar with say, the, you know, the public kind of being able to step out and talk to the microphone and step into the light. So was there any kind of period of time when the diagnosis, especially after July 4th, I don't know whether there was any part you thought, I'm going to hide away now, or did you?
Yeah, I'm like that at the moment, actually.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I'm going through that right now. It's a weird feeling as well, like, because I was so like eager to like share everything, and then I suppose like the last few weeks I can't even really describe. Like, it's kind of like, you know, like there's a fine line, right, in my situation between living your life and minding yourself. So it's like, do I have the bottle of wine when I can't heal from it for 5 days? Like, do I, you know? And it's a really difficult call. So I'm in this constant limbo where it's like, do I enjoy myself, or, you know, like, is it a waste of time for me to try and beat this?
Right.
Should I just enjoy myself?
Do you think about today, or do you think about tomorrow? Yeah, that's the sort of
like,
balance,
exactly.
Yeah.
And it is like, it's a really, really difficult kind of thing. And I think that's where I'm at the moment. It's like, I'm in a fight or flight at the moment, in a limbo. So I tend to like be in bed a lot with Netflix, and it's the weather and all as well. But like, it's just like, at the moment I'm going through a thing. Well, I've had to really, again, like, I've stopped going to counselling and all as well. But it's funny how it happens. Like, you think you're doing so well, and then you drift away without almost noticing, and then all of a sudden you're really upset, and you're like, why? And then you look back and you realise that you haven't been doing all them things that make you feel well. So I do, like, I'm not perfect, I'm not always positive, like, I drift in and out, like,
but you're very close.
Thank you. I'm very blessed that I have the family I have. That's I think the reason behind it. Like, I would not have been able to do everything I've done without them. Like, that's an absolute fact. Like, I just wouldn't. Like,
so we should say to people, one of the things I bought it straight away when I saw that it was released. Fantastic version of The Parting Glass. This is it's actually a Scottish song from the 1770s, but everybody from Bob Dylan did a version of it on his first album in 1964. Ed Sheeran, Tommy Makem, and now Jade McCann. I don't know. And this was from, I think it was a friend of yours, Jim, at his funeral.
Yes.
His brother sang it, and that just sort of struck a chord.
Yeah.
The actual kind of spark of recording it and putting it out there, and you've got Aslan and Tony McGuinness and all that. When did that happen? Was that?
It's crazy. I've worked with Clusterfox Films, who produced the video for it. I do some freelance work with them. I'm really good friends with John Connors. So when I was in London and I got the really bad news, I published a video of me like absolutely sobbing, because I had to go on and tell everybody, because everybody wanted to know. And I basically had to go on and be like, look, we come here hoping for a better result, and, you know, like, London was complicated. In the meeting they told me they couldn't help me, but then when I left they retested everything, so it ended up being positive. But at the time, they were like,
this is when you're in your hotel room, your mum was, I think, in the background.
That was the one. So you know, but basically what happened was, when I put up that video, the lads from Clusterfox rang me, and Tony McGuinness is actually one of the lads' brother-in-laws. So Tiernan just rang me, or John rang me, I can't remember which one, and they just said, like, look, we're going to make a charity single, and we're going to get more money, and we're going to go wherever we need to go, and you don't need to cry, like, we're going to do it. So at the time, like, it was kind of like, I needed focus anyway, so I was like, okay, like, I need something to focus on. And then it was also, that's a fucking brilliant idea, like, and I played music my whole life, so I was totally on board. And it just kind of happened, like, as soon as I got back, he was like, right, Tony wants to meet you on this day, and then I met him, and then I was in studio with Ray, and it just blew up, but it happened so fast. But it was like, I'm really lucky that I've made them connections. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's definitely not by chance. Like, I worked for these opportunities, and they just are kind of coming back in a bittersweet way, which is like
nice. Well, I do think that idea too, that, you know, what goes around comes around, in that you're in a world, and before you don't realise how many connections we're making, and just as much as we're all getting on with our everyday, and we've got all distractions and all that, there is thankfully always like a solid kind of base of people around that you know can kind of rely on, and it wouldn't be something that you're aware of necessarily, but you just know in these moments that, of course, these people are just going to step up because they feel incredibly kind of, you know, that they want to help, and that's, you know, such a wonderful.
There's also a downside to that, because there's a lot of people then that can't handle it. Like, I've had immediate, like, family members like that live with me completely move out, like, because they just couldn't deal with it, like, you know. Right. And I can't blame people for that either, because you know, like, that's within their nature. They can't cope mentally, whatever the case is, you know. Sure, like, when I was in hospital, like, I think my mum and my boyfriend were the only family members that came to see me. I was in there for nearly 2 months, like.
Wow.
And
they found it too difficult. Others.
Well, a lot of people found it difficult, but Dad was on chemo, so he couldn't come into a public hospital.
Right.
So there was just a lot of complications with that. But, you know, of course, there are people. What I'm trying to say is, the people that step up are never the people that you think are going to be.
Okay. You can be so completely surprised by.
Completely surprised. Completely surprised. Like, my best friend now, like she would be my best friend now, but like we went to college together and we would have been just acquaintances in college. But as soon as I got sick, like she came down, she painted my bedroom, moved me home, she organised fundraisers, like, and I'd never really known this girl, like she's my best friend now. Like I wouldn't know how I would have, like, it's, and like, you know, it's just it's just weird. Like never in my life, if someone had said, oh yeah, like that person would be the person, I'd be like, yeah, right, do you know what I mean? Like no way.
Oh yeah, such is life though. You just don't know who's going to be the one who wins scores the winning goal, and who's going to, you know.
No, you don't.
This idea too that you're trying different, you know, you're trying to experiment with different medicines. You know, THC and there's you've got a healer, but then obviously you're trying actual medicine. I know there's the one Ceramolus or what?
Yeah, Sirolimus. Yeah.
There you go, and that's hopefully by January. You said you'll sort of know what sort of, if that's got an effect. I mean, is there? I'm hoping there is hope that you can basically, as much as it's not curable, you can sort of maintain life.
Whatever it is.
Yeah. Or contain it. Or.
I think, that for me is the realistic hope. You know, that for me personally. Now my family will tell you different. They're like, no, we're going to beat this, you know. But I think that for me is the realistic hope here. But I think also it's about buying time, you know what I mean? Like people don't realise how advanced medicine is. Like the drug I'm on now is a molecular drug, and you know, 5 years ago it wasn't a thing. Like, you know, so if I can make it to another 5 years, who knows what will be out there, you know? And
touch wood, because it is. No,
it is.
We are flying. We're flying all the time with technology.
And I suppose that's why I'm trying to campaign so much for sarcoma awareness, because it needs research. It needs young oncologists, nurses, doctors to get on board and be like, there's not enough funding in this. There's not enough people specialising in this. You know, it just needs help. It needs a lot of support and help. And that's, I suppose, like, if it, like, my whole thing is that I don't want my life to be in vain. So like, if I can help somebody else or advance it in some way where somebody has learned something or another life can be prolonged or saved, well then that's kind of my job. But yeah, my hope would just be to prolong it enough until something comes along, if not to prolong it enough for me to have a decent standard of living for a long enough time. Like
now in the immediate, I don't know whether there's a such a thing as you know, your average day is good, or whether you don't have an average day anymore. I don't know whether you've got to that point.
I take every hour as I can't make plans anymore. I can't. You just don't know. Like I just never know. Like for example, like I could wake up and like I could just be like, can't move. Like, do you know what I mean? Or I could wake up and I could feel completely fine. But then on a day, like, it's always the wrong day as well. Like I'd have plans and I'd feel like crap. Or like I'd wake up and I'd have nothing to do and I'd be like dying to go, like not being able to. So it's like, as I said, like at the moment I'm doing a lot of hibernating and stuff, but I think it's just because I've been so, like, it's been such a fast year, like so much has happened, and I didn't, like, not once have I stopped, which is probably the reason I'm still going.
Okay.
Maybe I shouldn't. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's just like I need the rest and stuff now. So at the moment my average day is just taking it as it comes, you know. I've got a really supportive boyfriend, an amazing boyfriend, like like we only met when I first got diagnosed, so he's been I can't understand why he would have even why he does what he does, but he does. So I suppose he would be in my average day. Like I'd see him every day, and if we don't see each other, it's weird. Like it's like we feel like out of kilter.
And I do think that people would completely understand that, you know, you'll need to, you know, let yourself cry and let yourself sort of feel, you know, somewhat sort of, you know, it must be overwhelming at times. But that idea, I don't know whether you kind of are able to, you know, does one even ever kind of get to the point where you just have accepted and feel kind of full about it, or whether it still hits you in waves?
I was like, when I first, it's so funny that you say that, because I was like that until about a week ago. I was completely like, well, this is it, you know what I mean? Here we are. And the last like week or so I've been quite tearful and stuff, and it's like, I think it does come in waves, and it's almost like grief, you know what I mean? Like I'm losing a lot, like, you know what I mean? So like it is like grief, and you've got to just take feelings as they come. I think in my situation, I hate talking to people close to me about it, like, because I know how much it kills them. So I find it really difficult to express things like that. So like I do find it difficult to like talk about it negatively and to express myself being upset and stuff. just because I'm so scared of upsetting everybody else. Because like it sets me off then. Do you know what I mean? Like, I start, they start, and then it's just like. So I think that could be the hardest thing, but it definitely just does come in waves. Like,
I suppose the last thing would be that one always assumes that if a person ends up either in a wheelchair or they end up with any kind of restriction on their life, it suddenly has to change, that they will turn into Gandhi and they'll have great deep philosophical ideas in the world. Whereas I think most people in those situations turn into Groucho Marx. They just start to see that everything's absurd and everything's kind of ridiculous. And if you just have a sense of humour, it'll make a huge difference to your everyday.
It's about perspective.
Yeah.
It's very, very easy to look at something. We could both look at the same thing and like or dislike it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But do you find that I don't know whether it's humour is your kind of default button, that's a way for both you and your father and everybody else to just, get through what might otherwise be an impossible conversation or an impossible day or...
Yeah, it is. And sometimes it can be a little bit... we can gloss over things that we definitely need to discuss. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Well, that's the Irish thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
really?
it is definitely. And sometimes that might not be what we want to do. Like, but it definitely has been a huge crutch for us because I suppose like me and my dad, like we have this connection. Like we always have. We've always been really close, and we've always had this like connection of understanding, like between each other. Like we just know kind of. But now more than ever, like so I think. A lot of the time between me and Dad, we don't particularly need to say anything. You know what I mean? Like, he's at the moment going through radiotherapy, but I've done my radiotherapy. So I know what he's going through, and he knows I know. So, like, I cleared out all my presses, gave him everything I used, and it was real, like, we didn't need to talk about it.
Nice.
And if he is feeling down about it, he'll just come down and sit with me, and we don't need to talk about it, because he knows, you know what I mean? It's very like that. But I think with other family members, like my mum and stuff, like, it's weird, because, like, she can laugh at it, but say like my boyfriend, like he can't. Like if we make a joke, he gets highly offended. Like he doesn't find it funny at all, at all. And it's real. Like I just be like, "Oh, will you lighten up?" Like, but he doesn't. He's like, "I don't understand how this is funny." Like and it just depends on the person. But yeah, it's been a huge crutch. I think maybe one that we need to reevaluate. Possibly a bit of conflict, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I think it's important to take serious things seriously, but also to throw a custard pie in the face every now and again, just to break the tension or break that moment. And well, we will recommend, we'll put the link in again for the single. We will be doing a roundup of good things to buy for Christmas, which will include you and I think the Derek Payne book will be the top two things to be doing this Christmas. But I just wish you a wonderful Christmas, and we will keep in touch, and I know that there's a huge amount of climbing ahead, but I get the impression that you've got good boots and you're a good walker and you know what you're doing.
Indeed. Yeah. It's like what did someone say to me a few weeks ago? Down but not out.
That's the way. I thought
that was brilliant. I was like, that's a good one, because it's not like a lot of these quotes and stuff you hear, they're really positive. And it's like, it's not that positive. Like, I need a quote that's like in the middle. Like, can we have one that accepts some kind of...
I'm sure there's one in there with a swear word that would be even more... Yeah, you need a swear word in there too, just to
like, just to give it a bit of,
bit of meat.
Yeah, down but not out.